Waiting for, there it is, the message. And if I hear myself speaking, there it is, the message. I hear myself speaking, so we are good to go.
Okay. So we were just looking at, oh, well, you kick off the meeting.
Yeah, sure. Since it's just the three of us, shall I?
No intros, no. Please no. You know?
Sorry, what?
I thought you were gonna say, should we introduce ourselves? It's like saying, please no.
Oh, no, no, no. I was just saying, I'm just saying, shall I kick off everything?
Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
if you want to,
No, I'll
I
just
guess.
say, yeah. Anyway, hi everyone. Welcome to the Rider Oversight Committee of the MBTA for December 12th, 2023. I am Stefan Wunsch, resident of Lynn, Massachusetts, co-chair of the Rider Oversight Committee, and also co-chair of the Marketing Operations and Communications Subcommittee. We have Wig Zaymore, who's our co-chair of the full committee and resident of Somerville, and Leonard Diggins, resident of Arlington, who's former co-chair of the full committee and currently the co-chair of the finance and capital subcommittee of the ROC. The agenda was until 5:10 for public comment. We started the YouTube stream just a hair late. Nobody has jumped in to start watching the stream, but I'll keep an eye on that if anybody does jump in on the YouTube stream or
Okay.
if anybody comes in on Zoom and says they want to make a public comment, I will at least acknowledge them. So shall we jump right into current events and recent presentations to the board?
Well, so we did decide we've just looked at the schedule, and so I think we
Oh,
decided that the April full rock meeting is going to be on the 30th. So I will adjust the schedule. I'll adjust the calendar and send out the new version. Uh, I'll try and do it the next day or two. I'm not going to promise, but I'll try and do it really soon. You know, and otherwise I'll do it sometime in January. So,
hmm
uh,
that's fine.
all right,
If I can help without without getting in your way, let me know.
that's an easy fix. Just got to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
I just
uh,
mean I mean I see it's in a spreadsheet kind of a doc and I'm
yeah,
reasonably handy with them.
sure. I appreciate it. It's just, yeah, I'll just deal with it because it's just one tracking process at that point. So, but
Yep,
thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah. So let's see. So what else was on the agenda?
right here.
Oh, so let's maybe because as I said, we'll switch the agenda around and come back maybe to the doc review at the end, and so that we can
Okay.
deal with that for as long as we want. So we're gonna think about um, excuse me, um, I guess a broad and detailed agenda. So the broad agenda is for the year, and the detailed agenda will be for January. You know, so are there any like kind of general goals that we want for next year?
Yeah. I think we want to follow the progress of the safety um mandates very closely.
Okay.
Um, oh, I'm just sorry, really quick. Am I still sharing the screen? You guys see
Yeah.
yourselves and the okay,
Yes.
good. Just want to make sure that I don't see the green border around when I'm sharing, so I just wanted to confirm that. I think until all of the uh SIPs, I believe they are, the safety improvement plans are actually closed out with the FTA. I think we need to keep an eye on them. Um, Maybe not for anything specific, but just to make sure that there's progress being made and that there's um, deliverables that are um, not falling through the cracks, I guess. I mean, I know the FTA is going to be doing that themselves,
Right.
but I mean, I feel like as oversight, that's part of what we should be doing too.
Right.
Just following it, really.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
It
Yeah.
is there an outline at this point? Is there a broad outline of what the schedule strategy will be for that?
I'd have to
Um,
pull it up from a previous presentation.
Well,
yeah,
Again,
I mean,
yeah,
I think at this point there probably is, and I haven't gone looking for it. So if you're familiar with it, I'll just find it on my own time. But I think what you would want is an outline to check against and modify as needed as it proceeds, right?
I think so.
yeah. I mean, I don't know to what extent there is a uh, broad outline that was published for how the directives have been prioritized.
Right.
I suspect there was. I'm trying to think of when it would have been presented, and that would have been a while ago, like maybe this summer, at the latest, late last year at the earliest, when they got all the directives, essentially they're just kind of going through them, and they're working on them in parallel. I know there has to be by definition some kind of priority. Like I said, to the extent that was spelled out in detail anywhere, I'm not sure, but you can certainly look through the decks. They certainly show the progress report, and the various directives, and that's in one of the decks from the November meeting, and we'll probably cover part of that soon. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then the second question would be whether at some point we should look at the comparative funding of surface transportation by the different states. You know, I'm always amazed at the difference in fuel taxes. I know that Pennsylvania has, for a very long time, had much higher motor fuel taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some other states, but
Right,
there's quite a bit of difference between the states.
right,
And Pennsylvania was forced to it because they have over 6,000 municipalities as a result of the preponderance of ridges and valleys in Pennsylvania. And those, of course, come with a lot of surface transportation, including a lot of bridges. Um, but different states have very different tactics in how they fund surface transportation. The third thing I'll say, and then I'll be quiet, is that in my experience, federal transit does not have a robust staff in region, right?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think they do not have that big a staff. Um, when we were working years ago on the Green Line project, I used to interact with them more often because I always dropped my comment letters with them first on my way to the Boston MPO.
Right.
Um,
I'm listening.
but anyway, so I'll just stop there. Those are three things from I followed these things less than you two do. I may follow environment and health effects of transportation a little bit more, especially on the aviation side, but I know I follow the nuts and bolts of surface transport less than both of you.
Right. Well, I mean, the funding information is probably publicly available, right?
Yeah, and
Uh, you
yeah,
know what? Go
but
ahead.
it's so different among the states
Right,
that
but go ahead.
collating it. I used to look to the national papers every 5 years or so to see what comparative studies there were, but I haven't done that in a long time. And you can look just at fuel taxes for a starter. You can, I used to always look up, every couple of years I'd check on all of the states' fuel taxes,
Mhm.
and that alone is quite a story, and it's simple, and there's really big differences in the strategies and tactics of the varying states.
All right. Well, you seem to indicate that it's a challenging problem. It's a challenge to get that information. I think it'd be interesting. But I think you're probably more interested in it than I am. So I mean, the only way
Yeah.
we're gonna get this information right, Wig, is if one of us go and get it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, yeah.
And what brings it up for me now is the gap, right, between the states. That's what always struck me when I've looked at it in the past.
Right.
And we're going to be, it seems to me, we're going to be looking for funding pretty hard if we're going to do all this maintenance and repair work.
Well, so far we're getting it from the state. So it's really matter how long the state can keep that up. Eh, eh, who knows what we're gonna get from the feds and when, right? Yeah, I think we're due for a new transportation bill. But if that goes the way the last one did, I mean, um, we'll be stalled at current funding for a while. I mean, the only thing that might kick this process into a little higher gear is that we are headed into an election year. And if
Right.
we have a really favorable outcome to that, then we might see something happen in transportation faster. If we don't, my goodness, I mean, we'll be stuck
Yep.
at
Yep.
best where we are, I mean, for 4 years, uh, um, so
Agree.
yeah. And
Agree.
but in terms of comparison, I'm intellectually curious. It would be only in making a federal case, though, that we could benefit from it. But my feelings generally in doing the comparison is that it can cut both ways. And I was well, why bother with doing the comparison? Just state what you need, and then aim for that, because there's so much effort that goes into comparisons, and then you need to explain the deviation from whatever mean it is, and what that means, and in Arlington we sometimes do this comparison to other communities, especially for how we pay people. And for me, it's like it doesn't matter to me, if we're at the top or at the bottom. If the whole group is below where they should then to say we're at the top of a bad stack, is
Yeah.
at best, not it's misleading, because then you feel good, but it's like, but no, everyone is inadequately paid. I mean, we really want to figure out what people need to be paid, and then pay them regardless of how we compare. That's how I feel about funding for transit here. It's like we want to fund transit the way it needs to be funded, for our region. And it doesn't really matter how we compare to others.
Well, the one footnote I would add though is that if you can show that others are putting a lot more investment in and benefiting from that, it can be a lever to motivate the elected officials and leaders in Massachusetts.
Yeah, only to the extent that they respond to that kind of thinking, and because then you have to like ask, well, why? What are the details of that environment? How are they similar? How are they different? eh, and certainly, it works if you see a benefit, from the higher spending. But if you don't, then does that become an argument for spending less? Because I think when you do these kind of comparisons, you have to be prepared for it to go against you.
No,
Meaning
no,
that,
I agree with that.
yeah,
The data is what the data is.
right.
Um, the other issue that can frame these discussions is who are your competitors? if the other research intense metropolitan areas are focused a lot more heavily on things like transit funding or affordable housing funding or things like that, you get into competitive region issues, which probably are paid less attention to than they should.
Right.
I mean, I feel like we've been using the extraordinary collection of research universities as a crutch, that generates our um, our intellectual economy, and maybe not paying as much attention as we should to making everything work better. So I agree with you that it can cut both ways, but I think that at least the three of us generally are interested, and Craig too, are interested in knowing what the facts are before we finalize all of our conclusions. But
Right.
I'll stop there.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, and I think we have to understand why it is that we aren't focused as much as we are. Why is it a lower priority?
Right.
Is it just that there are other needs that are so much greater? That they, getting attention. Because all of these things could be solved, with more revenue, right?
Well,
Or
and
at
and
least
better, yeah, and better focus and management, better prioritization. Those
right,
those
right,
all count. But I
right.
I know historically from my 7 years on the sitting at MAPC on the oversight board for Metro Future, that people who consult who study and consult, but mostly study different metropolitan regions in the US, were stunned at the gap between the assets in the Boston region and their deployment for public good. Those assets including intellectual property and leading edge businesses. They really were stunned at how much we had kind of as just gifts, and how much less we struggled to harness those things than other regions that weren't as fortunate.
All right. I accept that. I'm not aware what study you're talking about. And so, is what study is this? When was it done?
Well, there were two journalists, two national journalists. I would have to go back because this is more than a decade ago. It's probably 15 years ago when Metro Future One was done at MAPC.
Mhm.
Tim Reardon would certainly know, even though he's moved to a different organization.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that there's many other folks who are still there. Holly St. Clair was running a lot of it.
Well, you think this?
I
You think? I'm sorry, Doctor. Would
No,
this be
no,
on their
no, no. Go
website?
ahead.
Would it? No. Would it be on their website?
It's pretty far back. I think honestly, maybe I can find Tim Reardon's email and I can check with him first. I
Okay.
think he must have moved to a different organization, maybe out of
He's at the state
he,
now. He's
he- yeah, I think he probably maxed out what he could do at MAPC.
no. I think they
He
just needed him. At the state for so
he
he's
he
working.
has an amazing database.
Yeah. Yeah. You know. So I might be able to get an email from address for him if you can't. So
Yeah, I'll look, Len. Thanks. I'll let
okay.
you guys know.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
At the
So
risk of asking something that's inconsequential, and I'm sorry if I am, um, how do you mean it when you said he has an amazing database?
He has a lot of data sets that you can find by looking up Tim Reardon. Hopefully they're still there. I mean, he created them all. He was basically, in my view, the top encyclopedia of regional data at MAPC.
I get that. Are you hinting that there's a risk that there's still just with him personally and
I
not.
think he created them personally, even though he was working at MAPC.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think he's the sort of person that would make anything that he created personally being publicly available, or at least
Absolutely.
available to
Okay.
all of his colleagues. And I think he considers, anyone who's interested in research being a colleague.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
Okay.
absolutely.
yeah.
I hope I wasn't implying that he wouldn't do that because I don't know him, but
No, 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 no,
it
no,
struck me as,
no.
I mean, I don't want to say concerning. It's too strong a word, but when it just it just caught me off guard when you said he has a
Well,
lot
the
of
reason
data
I
sets.
put it that way is that this data set is clearly, um, in part, just a result of his personal energy. Kind of like you guys,
Yep,
kind of like you, Stefan. I mean,
yep, I follow that. Yep,
So,
it's beyond his job description.
yeah, yeah, I get that.
so, so I have been looking here to see in terms of like broad strokes. I think someone asked like, is there something we should be looking at? And at the last MPO meeting, there was a presentation, you know, by someone from the MBTA, Lori Gilmore, I think, and someone else, Leslie, I forget her name, on strategic initiatives. And it's a good presentation.
Okay.
And it was like the first time I'd seen it, and I was like, "How did I miss this?" And I'm now like going back through looking at decks from MBTA Board of Directors meetings, and I've gone back to October, and I'm not seeing it. I'll go back a few months more, but I just I can miss things. But I was surprised I had missed that. And so unfortunately, the deck that she presented isn't available on the NPO's website. And so I think it'd be good to kind of look at that, and examine that more, and maybe have some interactions with the MBTA about that, so I'll see if I can somehow get my hands on that. You know,
How recently was that?
well, the presentation was at the last MPO board meeting, which was last Thursday. And
Okay.
so it will be on the MPO's YouTube channel, and so you'll be able to see it that way. But in terms of just finding the PDF or the PowerPoint of the presentation, I don't see it on the MPO's website, you know. So
Okay.
so yeah,
Oh, MPO's website. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stupid
If
me.
you,
I was doing a deep Google search of mbta.com and not getting anything, but no
yeah,
wonder because it's
yeah,
MPO. Sorry, that
yeah.
was a waste of my.
And if you look
Okay.
at the MPO's, calendar, for it would have been what, the 8th, the 7th, then let me go back to that, and you'll see it's listed on the calendar, and 7th. So it's item number 12. MBTA strategic initiatives, Lindsay Heffernan and Laura Gilmore. So yeah, it was interesting, and like I said, there's no link to the presentation, and said I tried to find it, in one of the recent board meetings, and I didn't see it. So it may be, it just may be, that the MPO board got a preview. In fact, I'm going to go to the MBTA's website now, because maybe they have the agenda up for the Thursday meeting. And if they're adhering to OML, they
I'm looking as well.
they would have to have it up, by now. Well, actually tomorrow, so they definitely have to have the agenda up by now. Oh, maybe it'll be in the report to the general manager. Yeah, report from the general manager, which wouldn't be as extensive as what we saw. So I'm really surprised, that the MPO would get such a presentation and we're not seeing it anywhere else, presented to the MBTA. So I'll go back and look some more and see if I missed it. But I mean, I'm not going to go back any more than like 3 or 4 months because there
Right.
shouldn't be like a strategic initiative presented to the MPO that is that far delayed from what the MBTA has done. But just because I say should doesn't mean that's not the case. So maybe I'll go back 6 months, when I have some time.
Is is it possible that it's this which I'm pulling over into this window? This was August. It specifically mentions Lindsay Heffernan, and I believe this is the closest I've come to pretty deep Google searching in the
Yeah.
for anything that happened this calendar year.
Well, no, that's certainly so. Those are the goals: empower and support staff.
Okay.
So those are the goals. All
Okay, cool. Let me
right,
put this in the Zoom chat just so you can access it in case that helps. But
all
no
right.
PDF to be found that I
No
can.
present. Yeah, no presentation associated with it. That's interesting.
Yeah, contract agreement, that's a whole other thing. And that's just a news
Hmm.
item.
So you found that when you searching on MBT's site? Well, you say you threw the link in the chat. So
Yeah, well, I found it specifically by doing a focused Google search for um, Heffernan and MBTA and strategic, and
gotcha.
that was one of the only things that
No,
came
that's, no,
back.
that was a good search. That was a really good search. Narrow it down, especially Google.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it helped that you said it was Lindsay who had done it, and then after
right.
that, I mean,
Yeah.
I am surprised that none of the results are on the MPO website.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, they didn't give us the PDF of it, and that's frustratingly often the case. I mean, that we get a subset the presentations that are made to the to the MPO. I mean, we get about 75% of them. I mean, and some of the more interesting ones we don't get. So and the ones we don't get generally are the ones from people who aren't members of the MPO, meaning like they aren't MPO staff. Because all the staff presentations we almost always get. You know, every once in a while we don't get them. That's usually because I think they're probably working on them at the total last minute, which happens. So
Guilty as charged. I mean,
uh, yeah, yeah,
I can relate to that. You know what I mean.
yeah. No, we all do. Man, and it's hard to advance the last minute much before the real event happens because the last minute really is when you have to do the presentation. You can move that deadline up. I mean, a week or so, but still, people are going to go, okay, well, that's my final draft. We all know about final drafts, right? so my final version, nothing like the word final,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make it not final.
Oh,
So
hang on. I think I might have found it even more recently than August. Hang on. This I looked over. I ignored this at first because it was talking about climate resilience, environmental resilience, but this just jumped out at me that Philip Eng, under Lindsay Heffern's direction, et cetera, and workforce, finance, emissions, buildings.
yeah.
Maybe I guess these are all focused on climate resilience, so maybe never mind. Because you're talking about strategic initiatives that were not just
not
climate
just
focused, right?
not just climate focus. No, it's
Okay. All right.
um,
Well, I'll
broad
drop this
or
link in the Zoom chat
yeah.
in case either of you gents want to
Right.
follow up on that as well.
Yeah. As I said, I mean, if you want to see it sooner rather than later, I mean, if the December 7th meeting is up on the MPO's YouTube channel, you can go
Okay.
there. And it was towards the end of the meeting, so um, Mhm. So you look at the MBO's agenda, you can then gauge where you are when you get to a certain point in the meeting, or when you first like plop into the meeting, you can advance where you need to go, you know.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because we've got kind of a diverse set of subject matter kind of linked to in this. Um, Len, is the convertibility between traffic analysis zones and census block groups and other standard units um, pretty high at this point in what CTPS and the MPO does, or is there need for conversion? I mean, I always think that census block groups are probably the broadest basis for analysis of environment, transportation, housing, economy, socioeconomics, and it it makes it difficult for non data geeks to look at that stuff if there's not a pretty good common base.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. It
Yeah, because and I know we've discussed this briefly before, but as you know, CTPS historically always uses TAZs, traffic analysis zones,
right.
and they have a different geometry from census block groups. So to relate the data from that TAZ base to the broader data sets that are usually census block group based, you need a relational table.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, Stefan?
I think so. I mean, you're literally talking about data formats, right?
Yeah.
No, well, I
Well,
mean, it's not formats. I mean, it's really how it's like how the buckets mean the buckets for the data mean, right? This is simply
well,
formatting. You're
it's a
talking about how it's,
mapping.
you know,
Yeah, it's a mapping. The TAZs are created very in a disciplined fashion to be the best geometries, local geometries for analysis of trips and trip related data. But they do things like go down the middle of a highway with TAZ boundaries and things like that. And they are not drawn up according to census geometry. So in order to get to study the general relationships, including all the population and environmental data, you need a conversion table between the TAZs and the census geometry.
Hmm.
well, isn't
And
that, go ahead.
no, and census blocks are great, but there's only a few data sets connected to blocks, like population. Census block group is where almost all the data comes in. Um, so it's hard, when you think that transportation is 40% of all climate impact, basically 4 times all residential and 4 times all commercial impact. Um, it's really important for there to be a common geometry when you get looking at relationships.
Yeah, I
So
can.
I used to work with Barbara Lucas and the other and Wendy Ingram and the other people in MAPC's data group to make sure those things were shipshape so we could do analyses of things like exposures. But I haven't done that in a long time. That's why I asked.
So let me try to understand. To me, this is a matter of conversion as much as it is. What you use to do the analysis and whether you get the same um, result in the aggregate. Because so let me just ask you a couple of short
Sure.
questions.
Yeah.
So if I was going to do an analysis between the movement of traffic from Boston to Worcester,
Yeah.
would it matter whether I'm using census blocks or TAZs?
No,
Okay, all right.
probably not.
Right. Because now we're talking a big enough region. So now you need to get into a small enough region where those differences become apparent. And now I want to know what is the qualitative impact in the differences that makes it
Yeah,
challenging to come to the
yeah.
proper
So,
conclusion.
yeah,
You know?
the best example I can do comes from the environmental epidemiology research I started a little over 15 years ago. So, if you live within 100 meters of a highway, your chances of dying of cardiovascular disease or lung cancer are 50% higher than an identical person who lives a kilometer away. So, if you don't have now we do our environmental analyses at 20 meter by 20 meter by 8,760 hours a year. No public group does that, right? I mean, it's just insanely detailed. But you do, if you can't, analyze population in 50-meter squares or 100-meter squares, then you cannot find the most severe environmental health impacts of transportation or anything else, because the
So
regional impacts are much more gradual.
so do census blocks do it on that level?
Yeah, census blocks would definitely do would be good enough. I mean, you get out into rural areas, they're big, but that doesn't really matter, right? Because the roads are few and far between. Things like that. The whole geometry expands. But um but
All right.
but it's census block groups are bigger than we couldn't use census block groups for our really detailed health associations, but other people don't need to do that at that level. But nobody can really tie population and all these other data sets together well unless you're doing it at least down to census block groups.
Right.
Anything bigger than that isn't going to work in
Right.
finding the relationships, the general
Right.
relationships. We
Right.
we have we have science reasons for going much more detailed, but when you're looking at general data for a region, or census block groups are fine.
Right. Good. All right. Well, I'm trying to think, what's being used for the travel demand model 2023 or 23. I just don't remember, but it's documented, and I'll see if I can find any documents that I have, you know.
Yeah, and I can track it somewhere else. I just thought I would bring it up because we're having a broad discussion.
Sure. Sure. Um, so, so, so I will see if I can get those initiatives, and that's something we can maybe do as a broad agenda um, for the upcoming year. We can maybe break, as you saw in the previous email. No, there it is. So we can see, those various categories. So we can maybe take, each category, and ask the T, like, who can talk with us about this, or we can explore it on our own. So maybe that can just be a topic of discussion. And as we discuss at a given meeting, if we want to follow up, and it becomes apparent that there's someone we can ask to follow up, then we can ask them if we can meet with them. So that's kind of a general idea. If someone else comes up with another general idea, you know, we can dovetail that into what we do next year. But right now, let's talk about what we want to do in January. Let's kind of set the agenda for January. So do you have anyone in mind, Stefan?
You think it's too early for another check-in with Keolis, even if it was just 15, 20 minutes for a what's new?
Um, I guess my concern about January, even though, and I guess maybe we should think about both of our meetings in January, although we can just do the first one now, and then do on the next one. We'll have 2 weeks after that one. Chances are by the first week of January, if the trends remain what they've been in the last, 5 or so years, we will not have had, a major snowstorm. But I think we should just be prepared for that and try not to call anyone, who may be pulled to the front lines in a snow emergency
Yeah.
in January and February. And yeah, I think it's a little SUNY also on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think that Mike Rooks, who showed us twice before, um, was likely to be called to front line,
Yeah.
but
Okay, that's fine.
no, but I agree. It's pretty, if there is a snow emergency, it's all hands on deck.
Well, hey, so what were we talking to him about? 'Cause, I mean, it has been pretty recent. I mean, so I don't really want to you know,
Was it? I didn't
um,
think it was, I thought it was July or August.
that's still pretty recent, right? How often are we planning on talking with them?
Oh, at least twice a year. That was my
Oh, really?
goal.
Okay,
I
well,
mean,
that's
yeah,
still good.
well, ultimately, I, if I could wave a magic wand, I would have twice a year, at, at least 15, 20 minutes, just a check-in from every, from somebody from every major element of MBTA,
Right,
bus, light rail, heavy rail,
right.
commuter rail, station, facilities, engineering. I mean, finance, like John Davis used to give us
Yeah.
periodic information that
Yeah.
I've missed.
Well, I agree. Well, I mean, I think
Hiring, workforce,
right.
compensation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question though, no, I think that's a good goal. I guess the question is, we we should build on whatever they presented to the board, unless we see a gap in what they presented to the board. So in the process of looking at what they presented to the board, if we see gaps, then I think we should ask people to come with us. If they have presented on the board to the board, on issues in which we're interested, then we need to extend on that because otherwise we have the information, right?
That's
So we
quite
just don't
right.
we just don't want them coming to us for to
Regurgitate.
validate us, or to affirm us, or to just put on a show. We really want to get some new information that we haven't
Oh,
got.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, don't neglect the fact that our conversations. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, probably approaching 100% of the time, bring up topics and there involve discussions that touch on material that's not brought in front of the board. I mean, just because it's the nature of who we are and we're interested and curious and have our own perspectives, but
Right, right.
no, but I agree.
But we should let them. I understand, and the conversation can go in a direction that gives us some information. But I think it would be good for us to try to at least give them some sense of what new things. Let's just try to make it worth their while.
Oh, I
And
agree. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Instead of
Yeah,
just
that's
saying,
very
well,
astute.
you'll come to us and present to us what you presented, and hopefully you'll find it worth your while. We really want to try and make it appealing to them. If it makes us work harder, but I think that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very astute, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Between both of you, for Wig and Len, do you have any thoughts on what's a sort of like a minimum time period between, and for lack of a better term, I'll just say disciplines at the agency where we would want to hear something. In other words, if we if we had gone through 6 months of looking at presentations to the board of directors and we hadn't seen anything in 6 months about, I'll just say, whatchamacallit, then or 9 months or 12 months, then would that be a time, like what would be a time window for us to go out and ask somebody to come and talk to us about whatchamacallit,
Yeah.
because we didn't hear from that area of the agency in the board meeting,
Right.
in a board presentation?
Well, I think every 6 months is fine. And twice a year. And also we just need to be kind of aware of the general calendar that people are functioning under. So you kind of want to avoid the end of the fiscal year, right? Because everyone tends to be in a crunch then. And the end of the federal fiscal year can be a little tricky sometimes too. You
Right.
know, So now the matter is, if everyone's operating under these same time crunches, is there just then maybe a good time, to schedule multiple guests, for short meetings with us? Yeah, and I would say probably the better months would be something like a February, and a July, because you want to catch people before they head away for vacation.
Right.
August is a lost cause, you know. So I would say probably February, July, and October would be good months to schedule people. February, March, Aprilish, but then May getting into the end of the beginning to approach the end of the fiscal year, but then July, everyone's pretty much done with the fiscal year recovery, but then they're
Right.
available, so, but yeah, twice a year. Maybe for some of them would be like um, once a year, but in a specific month. With the understanding, that if something comes up, we can contact them, and hopefully, the contact can be in more than one medium, right? Or in more than one way of communicating. So if we just have a quick question, we could just email them a question or something. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would be wonderful to be able to go back to. I mean, I don't know if even 10 or 15 years ago we had that close a level. I don't know if back in the days of meeting in 10 Park Plaza and 45 High Street, I don't know if we were so close to some of the managers, directors, AGMs where we could actually email them, ask them questions just off the cuff because they were showing up once or twice a month to the meetings in person. But if they're not, yeah, it seems reasonable that
Yeah.
we'd be able to have a little bit of a. Well, I mean, I'll take Mike Rooks for example. We've actually I can't even think of a couple of other guests we've had prior to or just after they're joining us for a meeting post-pandemic in Zoom. We've had a little bit of follow-up afterwards by email, and it happened.
Yeah. Well, I would say, maybe I'm ask Rook. How do you feel about reaching out to Wolfgang? We haven't talked to him in a while.
I
And
should try again.
yeah,
It's been several months. I'll say more than that. I'll say it's been many months since I really stopped trying because I never heard anything back from him.
all right. Well, I'll try them. Why not come and try and say, hey, Bill, want to come and talk with us, about anything? And if he says what particularly you want to talk about, I'll check in with you and find out what. Do we have any general ideas what we want?
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, that's actually pretty easy to find because that's on the project page for uh, his stuff is pretty much inside the see the new vehicle procurement is wrapped up inside green line transformation, red line, orange line transformation. The possibilities of using like the Type 9s on the Mattapan line, which I think is still under his purview, even if it's not a new acquisition. I think Mattapan line getting the Type 9s over there after the Type 10s arrive in what is that going to be like 2030 or something like that.
I mean,
Plus facility modernization. He's got a link into that for the electrification. I almost said procreation. That's funny. Not procreation. Acquisition. Procurement. Procurement
right.
of the electric vehicles. Yeah. So I mean, I believe his stuff is all wrapped up in these.
Well, all things electric, would be probably something to chime in with them because that's good. With respect to climate and pollution, so we could ask him for an update on that. Yeah. All right. Why don't I reach out to him? And tell him that this will be like the small meeting, which won't be recorded, and then for the
Yeah.
larger meeting that will be recorded, I'll try and reach out to either the initiative people or the um, capital folks. All right.
I'm happy to do so as well. I mean, I I've name dropped enough people in past rock meetings on Zoom telling you guys about, oh well, I met so and so, I met so and so, and I mean that that's turned into several guests. I mean, Tom McGee was here because I saw him in person, and Danny Levy, I think she's assistant GM now for customer experience. She joined us a couple months ago after I had met her in person. Um, I still like to try to get Andrew, who's the director of um, electronic engagement, the website, Twitter, um, media presentation. I believe Andrew is sort of like the 2023 Rose Yates, like in charge of like the messaging.
Right.
I asked him a couple times by email because I met him in person. I
Right.
said, "Hey, here's who we are," and he
Didn't hear,
seemed.
you didn't hear back.
I haven't heard back,
All right.
but I could try again.
Yeah, well, if they're not responding, then they probably won't respond for whatever reason. So it's not like you haven't tried. I mean, yeah, feel free to try again. I mean, I'm not telling you
Yeah.
not to, but I'm just like saying, okay, well, the odds are that we'll
Oh.
get them to
Actually, here's the funny part. I have his business card right here.
yeah,
Since I met him in May.
right.
Andrew Cassidy,
Yeah.
Senior
We'll try
Director
again.
of Digital Strategy and Engagement. I could call him up. Maybe I should
Yeah.
just do that. Maybe I should
Yeah.
just call up the folks who I know how to reach my phone. He gave
Yeah.
me his card after all.
Yeah. All right, we'll do that. I mean, and if he says he wants to come to one of the January meetings, then let me know, and that
Yeah.
will affect in what I do. Okay. So I think we have a decent handle, on January. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Would you like me to drop a note to Mike Rooks of Keolis, who was the guy who's already joined us a couple times? I think he joined us twice, 2023, and the first time we had him was 2022, late in the year, just to see if there's anything new that he wants to bring to us.
sure,
Like
sure,
give
sure,
him the
sure.
opportunity, like, hey,
Yeah.
Mike.
Well, that was part of the plan, right? To reach out to him,
Yeah,
so
okay.
so
Okay, so
so
yeah,
when I
I'll do that.
said so that's when I said I think we have like a good plan for January that involved him. I mean, you can offer him either the two meetings, and I'll try and get in touch with the initiative people and see if I can get their deck, and see if they want to talk with us. That could be a January, February situation, and the
Yep.
capital people, that could maybe be a January situation also,
Yep.
although they might be like, they tend to be a little shy about meeting me when they are in the midst of early planning. It's
Oh,
more
sure.
like, well, we're working on stuff. We'll get back to you when we're ready for public input. It's like, okay, fine. So
Yep.
okay. All right.
Absolutely right.
So and what would be interesting about Rook is he, Ray Cohen, what's his
Yep.
name?
Caholen. Yep. Ryan
Yeah,
Caholen. Very good. Yes.
Ryan Cohen. Yeah, he actually presented to the MBTA advisory board because now he's with MBTA, as you know.
Oh no, he
And
always was. Yeah. Ryan Caholen always was. He was always the MBTA side of commuter rail.
okay, well now he's no longer with commuter rail. He's all MBTA.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, and so and he was talking about how he commuter rail has gotten most of its ridership back. In fact, that was in one of the presentations, at the last board of directors meeting, they got up as high as the 97% um, um, ridership rate compared to pre-COVID. I mean, they dipped a little bit
Okay.
recently. They're still above 90%. And so I asked them, at that meeting, what did you learn from what did Killis do, and what did you learn? That would be applicable to the T with respect to getting its ridership back, especially on heavy rail. And I know that they are two very different um, um, entities,
Yeah.
and that's why I said, that's applicable and he very well said very little. But essentially, what he says, and this is what I thought it was, is that they have kind of adapted the schedule for Keolis to meet the riders in a way that makes riding the commuter rail more appealing.
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
I couldn't remember if Keolis has actually increased service, levels over what they were before the pandemic. And I know they've changed it, but I don't know if it's like a net increase in service. I know just now they've recently said that they're going to increase service, but still, I don't know if that gets us above where we were before pandemic. And it certainly seems like the distribution of service is different than it was
Oh yeah.
pre-pandemic. So I don't know if we should take from this mean that people are now like commuting back to work. As much as it is, we may be picking up new riders who weren't using commuter rail because you had like the crush rush hours and then these huge gaps in the middle of the day. You're nodding your head as if you want to say things, Stefan. So I'll shut up.
I'm gonna see if I can find in a reasonable amount of time the notes that I took last time we had Mike Rooks join us, because I thought that he told us that they were actually delivering a higher net service compared to pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I'm kind of remember now asking him those questions.
But that
Yeah.
might, I think that was actually the full meeting. And since I don't take notes, I don't take typed notes for the full rock meetings, I guess I don't have it. Sorry.
All right.
But that would be somewhat easy to find if, gosh, I thought about this before. This is just sort of a note to self, but I'll share it with you guys. Um, since YouTube processes our speech and produces an automatic, I mean, it takes an hour or two for it to do it, but there's a closed captioning transcript that can actually be downloaded as text.
Right.
I should make an attempt to just download every transcript from every rock meeting that's on YouTube so that we would actually have a searchable database.
Right.
And we all could just, I mean, I don't know how we would distribute it, share it in a way that would be proper, or whatever air quotes proper would be. But boy, it would be great to be able to go into something and just say, hey, let's search our own meetings, our own transcripts. When did Mr. Mike Brooks of Keolis say service level pre-pandemic? I mean, that sounds like a job for AI, but I'm not up for that yet.
Well, I mean, well, it's just a search. I mean, so just put it on a Google
Yeah,
Drive, So you
true.
clearly know how to do clever searches, as you proved to us earlier this evening.
I will file that away in the back of my mind for a some night when I can't sleep.
Right. No, I hear you. And I do a lot of my creativity or just kind of catch up stuff, you
Yep.
know, on the train.
Um, Before I close the tab without mentioning it to you gents, did you happen to see this um CTPS? Actually, it's Boston Region MPO, which I guess is CTPS and vice versa. Have you seen the future conditions travel demand story map? That's it's dated September 2023. I don't know if we've talked about
Yeah,
that.
I'm actually going through it now.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
I don't think I've
that
seen it before.
yeah. And so they're doing these story maps. And if one piece of advice I can give you if you decide to go through it, when you look at tables, meaning that are static, meaning
Yeah.
that you know pop them out. There's a little like pop out square,
Yeah.
meaning in the right hand corner, pop it out because if you
Yep.
don't, I mean, as soon as you mouse away from it,
Yep.
the it's you have to reload it when you go back to it. You know,
Oh.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but if you pop it out, then it pops onto another tab, and,
Okay.
and then you can just kind of like, you don't have to, the table won't reload on you each time you scroll
Okay.
away and scroll back. And it's driving me crazy,
Oh, okay.
So
What
yeah, the
what kind
story
of
maps.
interaction is there?
Huh?
Oh, I
You see what I'm
see.
saying? And it's kind of irritating, and then like I
Uh,
said, if you scroll away, now this is a static map. If you scroll away, then when you come back to it, you have to load it up again.
Interesting.
Uh, well, maybe it has a little bit of a lag, a little bit of a cache, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess
if you
I
pop,
don't know. I don't know what to expect as far as interactive goes. I mean, is the are the legends that we're getting here just that is that the extent of the interaction?
that's the extent of it. They
Oh,
have
okay.
they have other maps, meaning that you can uh, that you can like click and it'll show you different things. So they have
Hmm,
maps that are layers, and so you can click on the
got
layers
it.
and then see, but these are generally pretty static, and
Okay.
so that's why the pop out really helps with them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Not to mention just seeing it in a full
it's
page.
I
All right. Let me share that link.
I'm supportive of people doing new things. So I hate to like really dump on the story maps. But apparently it's easier to update. I get that, and but it, it requires that you be online in order to use it. So I can't really use it on the T, uh, and
Right.
and and uh, and and it's just I just find it so much harder, to use it because it's so much less convenient to use. Because it used to be that I would just like dump things to a PDF feed and
Yeah.
then read most of it. Now, granted, now you have these links that will take you to bigger data sources. That's fine, but you know what? It could be a hyperlink, and it can still be a hyperlink to a live source. And
Yep.
I can then follow that hyperlink when I want it. But now they even shut off the ability to download a PDF, which I think is obnoxious, but it is what it is, and but I myself, I just think that if I had said, "Oh, let's create a story map that's only available to people online," people would go, "Well, Len, that's not very accessible to people who don't have a computer." So it never would have occurred to me to do something
Yeah.
like this, but yet that's what's been done.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to be too critical, to the folks directly about it because I don't want to discourage them from trying new things, but
Yeah.
Yep.
and I think they might be easily discouraged, but generally, uh, it, for me, it means when I try something, I really invite people to be very critical about it, because
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I tried it, didn't work, I'll either like try to modify this new thing that I've tried, or maybe I have to just like step back
I gotcha.
and regroup and figure it out. But you know what, instead of being highly critical, to the folks directly, I'm going to keep working at it and see how I can work around it, and
Yeah.
still get my work done, even if I have to create screenshots. It's
Yeah.
like
Have
it's a
you
little bit of a kludge, but if I want to try and do the work on the train, maybe I'll take like 20 screenshots, and I can read them while I'm on the train. Go ahead.
have you tried it says print preview, print or save as PDF up in this little menu in the corner. Have you tried that one on this particular
Well, it's
story
funny.
map?
It's funny. I didn't see that, so uh,
Because I just clicked on that and I just noticed, well, some of these tables are still scrollable. And so I mean,
yeah,
I'll try exporting this once we're all done. I don't want to tie you guys up, but
no,
I mean,
that's
certainly
fine.
if something is scrolling inside a pane in what's supposed to be printable, that doesn't give me very much hope. But
No, right. The
maybe
rest
it
of,
would. I don't know.
but well,
I'll mess around with it.
yeah, no, it's funny because I had see, I'm on the first story map in the group, so let me see if I can, because they've done one of these, the Blue Hill, Blue
Yeah.
Hill, like access in Blue Hills or something. And I had the same situation where I could download the PDF, but then the embedded windows, I would only get a fraction of information that was in the embedded windows. And it's like, okay, fine. I can't get everything there, but I can just go back to the Windows online and get the rest of it there. It's not
Yeah, I
ideal.
think I'm sensing a little bit of that same issue here.
Right.
The,
But when
the
I tried,
tables. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say when I tried to do a download even of a PDF of just what's there, on the first story map, I wasn't able to do that. But it seems like, which story map are you on?
I'm on the one that's Destination 2050, future conditions and travel demand. The links,
Alright.
the most recent link in the Zoom chat, if that helps. I'm going to download this and see what we get.
Sorry, wait, are we losing your way here?
Yep. Oh, well, if we're at the risk of doing that, then I should mention that I do have a little bit of a presentation that might be interesting to Wig. I took I took a little field trip today down to the new Lynn interim
Yeah,
temporary commuter rail
yeah, I was going to
platforms.
ask how that's doing.
Would you like me to pull that up?
Well, I'm good with you guys should do it what makes the most sense to you. I'm fine just kind of hanging out with you.
Okay, well, I'd like to pull them up and show them when the time is right. But Len's on a tear, and I don't want to interrupt you, Len.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
no, I
So,
agree with
No,
that.
really, keep
well,
going.
who, me or what? I'm sorry.
Oh,
You,
yeah, Len, please keep going with that story map. Figure
So
that
look, if you go to bostonmpo.org/LRTP,
Yes.
so then, so do you now see like destination 2050 needs assessment?
Let me do it live in the Zoom window so there's
All right.
no. All
So
right.
then, so you see like you have like 9 squares, and
Yes.
then so if you click on the first one on the top row,
Destination 2050 PDF.
um, PDF. This is a needs assessment. It's a PDF that you're seeing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said bostonmpo.org/LRTP.
Yeah, you're there. So now you see the destination 2050 needs assessment. Go
Destination
down, go down,
2050. Oh, I
down
didn't scroll
some.
down far enough.
No. So up me. So you see those 9 squares, 2 rows of 9 squares of video.
Oh,
Yeah,
the image
yeah, the
squares.
image squares. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I wasn't clear. So click on that first one.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's the story map.
there's a story map. And so now, where do you see the ability to get a PDF?
There's a subtle little menu in the
Yeah,
upper
I see that, but
right,
that one
but
doesn't give you the
that,
ability to
yep,
get a
I agree.
PDF.
That one does not.
Right. So then you were clicking on the squares for the PDF of the whole
Well,
LRTP.
well, hang on. Let me hit this get started. Um, Now that I've done the get started.
Where do you see to get started?
Oh, that was. Oh, I've got to reload it now. That's weird. How did I? Huh, let me reopen that. Hang on a second. I opened this new tab. I got this page, which was the default. Get started seems to be JavaScript. So I clicked on the get started right here, and it gave me an item 1.
So okay, so that's yeah, so I think I get the same place, you know.
But
And
this
so
one does not have a
no,
export to PDF.
doesn't allow you. Yep, that's the one I'm on. Doesn't allow you to download a
Interesting.
PDF, and and so like that was the one where I say you pop out the tables and then
Oh
the
no,
tables are
there it is. I did open a new tab and suddenly bam, there it is.
so how'd you get that?
I was on the page that doesn't show print to a new tab, but I print to a PDF and I did open in a new tab in that
Oh,
same menu just as an experiment. And sure enough, I got something that does include print preview, print to PDF for the summary of transportation needs. Hmm.
So it's on the
Still
print
with, do
preview.
you want to share your screen instead?
So it's in the print preview, and then
Yeah. Yeah. But I had to do open in new tab.
right.
And then on that resulting tab, I have the little menu option that includes print preview.
Well, good enough. I mean,
Yeah.
that's great. Excellent. Like I said, you still have the
Okay.
embedded table, but because if you pop out one of the embedded tables,
Yeah.
uh, interestingly, it seems like you can't pop out the embedded table when you do the print PDF. Fine, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
See,
And
but
so I'm
then,
curious how that's going to actually be, if it's going to be useful.
but if you go back to the screen or the tab before you did create the tab that allows you to print
Yes.
the PDF, then you
Then
can
you can pop them out.
pop the table
Yeah.
out that way. But then printing that to PDF is its own issue. But you know what?
Seem like it. Yeah.
But you know what? I think you just like print the page, so it's a little kludgy, but it's better than what I was saying before. So at least you can print,
Yeah.
the
And
meat of the document. So at least I can do that kind of reading, on the train.
yeah.
Because the
Okay.
stuff that you're linking to me, that's not static. That's really like stuff where you do real interactivity with layers.
Hmm.
You wouldn't want to come to that on the network internet anyways,
Right.
and that's good. So, well, thank you. Oh, what relief. What relief. Because I was
My,
really like, it's
yeah.
like so inefficient, and there's a lot, and the deal is that there's a lot of good information here, like a lot of good information, especially if
Oh, yeah.
we on the MPO and you really want to think ahead and give some meaningful feedback and interaction on things. And just the ideas. It kind of like sums up where the MPO is on
Yeah.
various initiatives. I keep emphasizing to people, it's like the only way you're gonna really understand this stuff is if you read, because we all know it's like there's passive learning where people are just presenting things to you, but then there's really active learning,
Yeah.
where you're really going out and you're trying to understand stuff. And most of us do that during reading. We can do it with video, but then when you're doing it with video, you have to have like kind of like problem sets or something where you like
Yeah.
be where you have to like use what you've heard, you have to try to
Right.
apply it, to a solution or to explaining something because it's not and so reading the stuff is just so informative. And sometimes you read something that you're like, oh, I already know that, but you read it's like there are details that you weren't aware of before. Maybe it's just something about reading that detail again that makes it pop out, and it's
Hmm.
just such a valuable exercise. And they put so much effort into putting this all together, and they do a really good job and kind of have it like inaccessible because I can't print, yeah, so read was just driving me crazy. So thank you guys for helping out.
No problem at all. Yeah, tell you what, let's since we're coming up right on
yeah,
6:30, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the
the decks.
recent presentations? I mean, we didn't actually go into any of the presentations to the board, but we don't have to.
Yeah.
But I,
So we
but
kind of
I do also want to show the handful of pictures I took from the of the interim commuter rail station because I think it's well notable. So it's up to you, gents. If you want to stay till 7, we can do both.
I'm trying to stay to 7. So why don't
Yeah,
you start off with the Linway stuff, and then I'll kind of queue up, some of the presentations on my other computer, so that I
that sounds
can
great.
quickly run through a couple of things on them.
Okay.
Because one of
Well,
them is going to be about the Lin project anyway, so it fits in very
ah,
nicely. You know, I have to.
alrighty.
I need to put on my mask because there's some odors here that are bothering me.
Yeah,
Okay, so
that's
all right.
fine. That's fine. I'm not going to linger too much on this, but stop me, Wig, if you want to see
So,
more
Stefan,
detail.
where are we in
I am
downtown?
I'm glad you asked. My back right now is towards Union Street. I'm right at the corner of Ellis Street and School Street. There's no school anymore on School Street. I don't even remember how long ago it's been since there was a school on School Street. But the commuter rail tracks are running right behind these two houses, these two
Yeah.
single family houses. And this will make a little more sense. This is also part of the municipal parking lot. I don't know yet if all of this parking is going to remain as Lynn Municipal metered or permit only parking, or whether the MassDOT MBTA project is taking it over. All I can really say for right now is every car in this lot was flyered with this as of today. So I happened to catch it. Um, this lot is the Ellis Street lot. Clearly it says MDOT, MassDOT, repainting the spaces. I don't know if this means that MassDOT is taking over, if MassDOT's repainting the space. I just, to be
Or
determined, maybe it's in the project plan.
yeah, maybe it's just contribution as they try to get you guys through all of this.
Yep, could be. But here we are getting closer to the actual project area. This is right along the tracks, and I was very pleased to see all the mature trees were maintained. They seem to be very well respected. I believe this is the same sign that was there from the groundbreaking. You can see in the background the platforms. Um, that's a little angled, but what's interesting, I think, is that they've maintained and used the old, yeah, this really isn't particularly interesting. That's just all construction fencing, and so you can disregard that. Um, oh yeah, so Boston trains, very, very clear. The signage is already up everywhere, and it's very, very good. This retaining wall dates back to about 1911, 1912, 1913, when they first did the elevation work of bringing the tracks up above Central Square. Um,
Yeah,
I was glad to see that it's at least in good enough shape that they just paved right up to it. Obviously, they consider this to be safe enough of a wall, even though it's got a little bit of spalling going on and some vines and overgrowth on the fence line. I mean, this is the official halfway to the inbound platform. You might recognize this wig because this is Union Street at Silsby is going towards us diagonally on the left. This is the Ellis Street where I started off, and it's the former Eastern Bank branch. That's this big brick building. It's got a couple of murals on it.
yeah.
Paving and new fencing all the way around this parking lot. Again, more signage. Boston trains pointing to this walkway, and the fence lining is all brand new. The Here's a good quick video
Yeah.
for the sake of, I don't know if you can hear it. Let me turn off. You can probably hear it a little bit now.
Yep.
So that's the train going outbound, northbound,
Yep.
and this new platform area is in on the left here.
Okay.
And signage. And you can see it's really well done so that from any one sign, you're seeing the next sign.
Yeah.
And then from this sign, I don't know if you can see it in the background, but the next sign is right also in sight. So they've really left breadcrumbs from one to the next to the next. This I thought was a little bit amusing because this says Lynn Busway and Parking Garage left. You might not be able to make it out, but this yellow sign that's down here says Lynn Busway and Parking Garage with the arrow pointing straight ahead. So I don't know if that's a goof or but this is Mount Vernon Street, by the way. You probably recognize it, Wig. The old platforms up over on the right here.
Yeah.
But very good signage, complete with walking distance, miles, time, the actual directions from station, go to this way, go to that. So leaving not much to the imagination. QR code to get there, or to get to a website, excuse me, not to get for additional help. Ellis and Friend Streets open, more details down below. Again, if you see one sign, you look around, you're going to see the other sign.
That's good.
Inbound and outbound. This is right on Silsby. Friend Street is to the right. Silsby going towards the old elevated station is on the left. And they even, as part of this project, repaved. I don't know if you can really tell, but this is brand new asphalt on the
Yeah,
municipal Lynn sidewalk
good.
simply because they probably needed to make that safe for
Yeah,
wheeled mobility. And
yep,
I think it was pretty rough, but Mass.MBTA did a municipal sidewalk as part of this. Wow.
good.
Len, do you want to pause back on any of these? I know you were looking at the at your other material there. But that's okay. And then you get into what I think is a small easement. This is the new Lynn Senior Center building, which is again on Friend Street. Plenty of signage, lighting on the poles. These poles are brand new. No parking, just buyers will be told. I mean, it doesn't even say drop off. So I'm guessing that this is purely for pedestrian access, and all these vehicles are. This is not an indication that there's going to be any turnaround in here. I think this is a private lot. And here we have a full. I think this is like a full many 100-foot long high level platform. No mini highs going on. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a ramp covered towards the
Yeah,
back of it to come around to get on the mini high from wheeled mobility. I
yep,
mean, for an interim platform, this
yep,
is I mean this is like what I would have thought would be the fit and finish of a permanent platform, for crying out loud. I mean, you remember the old Chelsea station? There were no fences to protect people from the right
right,
of way, but
right.
there's fences here. I mean, this is better than some existing stations
Yep,
within the last year or two.
yep.
And then this is the view from across the tracks. This is the platform going into Boston, so you
Yeah,
get an idea of how big it is. I think that's probably big enough for if the engineer were to line it up right, you could probably get the entrances to, if they did it right, one, two, maybe three cars if they lined it up, but certainly two. Certainly
yeah,
two doors worth.
yeah. Well,
I'm
it looks
shocked
as
with how
functional
thorough
as
this is.
Swampscott.
I'm sorry, say again, I talked over you.
It looks as functional as the Swampscott station.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And being a full high level platform just completely blew me away. I absolutely did not expect a full high level as an interim. Um, we'll see how much of these signs remain after X amount of time, but I mean, like I was saying a minute ago, this checks all the boxes.
Good.
Accessible, well lighted, the wayfinding is all there. I didn't see any barriers for wheeled mobility devices. A full high level. I mean, just wow. Just
Yep,
wow. I can stop there unless you want to go back and zero
that's
in on
great.
anything or any
No,
questions.
thank you.
Okay, cool. I'll drop the link into this is a public album, by the way, so feel free to grab this link and look at it, share it. I don't get there's no charges for the amount of people that look at it.
Cool.
Just Apple iCloud photo album.
Cool.
Um, Apparently, from all the signs, the opening day is a week from yesterday, Monday the 18th.
Great.
Great.
I'm gonna see if I can find out if there's gonna be a ribbon cutting or any kind of a. I'm sure there's gonna be a press event. I mean, how could there not be? This when the groundbreaking as such was what, Wig? I mean, it was like only about 3 months ago, wasn't it? Wasn't it in September?
Yeah, pretty recent.
Yeah, this has got to be one of the fastest and most thorough temporary
By
stations or
by the way,
setups.
I took the Downeaster to Brunswick on Thanksgiving back and
Very
forth,
nice.
and it was really excellent. And it was mostly 20 to 30-year olds, late college, kind of mature young adults,
Yep.
maybe don't have cars. Then was just a scattering of other folks like me. Um, but it went very well, and you know I don't know why more people don't do it. I mean, why do I want to drive up to my sister's in Brunswick, Maine, and get stuck in a 2-hour traffic jam?
Exactly. And it's by complete coincidence that um, my family all gathered at one of our extended relatives in Biddeford, which is just outside of Saco,
Right.
which has a stop on the Downeaster. But unfortunately for us who are in Lynn, we've have to drive all the way down to Woburn to the
Yeah.
Yeah, Anderson.
Anderson. Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
and
and
that
Anderson's a big deal.
yeah, and the time for us to get out of Lynn
Yeah,
onto 128.95, go all the way
yeah,
down to Anderson, and then take the Downeaster
Right.
would have been more
Right.
time if I did the math right than
Right.
just driving the hour and a half, and it made me
Right.
very sad.
Right. Right.
Even
And the,
though I can walk to the active eastern route in 6.5 minutes, by the way. I timed it. From where we are to the old commuter rail used to be 8.5, because this new temporary platform I was showing is much more north, technically northeast.
yeah.
Yeah, it's closer to us. But anyway, yeah.
well, and another reason I think people may end up driving is that for one person taking a train, to a destination is cost effective. But you take a family now, then I think it becomes less cost effective. If you have a
Yeah,
car,
that's probably true. And I get the
yeah,
senior ticket price, so
yeah, yeah. But then it's like 3 or 4 people, it's $20. Now you're talking about $80. Man, if you have a car already, you've already paid for the car. You just now have to pay for the gas, and it's going to take you less than $80 worth of gas. And then it's just really a matter of what kind of stress, how much you value
Right.
the reduction in stress. For me, that's a high value. I just assume I'd rather pay that money, and not have to deal with a car, and the risk that comes with being in a car, but for a lot of people, they do that equation differently, so,
Yep.
yeah, I just took a notebook with me. I got a window seat. I read some papers,
right.
looked out the window.
No, and, and
I don't know how you can do it. Do anything other than look out the window. Whenever I'm taking a train trip for the first time or someplace that where it's not my usual
Yeah.
stomping ground, I I'm just glued. I'm just looking
Well,
out
the
the
other
whole time.
the other super interesting thing, and sorry to divert people, but
That's okay.
you're going through the middle of all the old cities.
Exactly.
So you really see a lot of character. You see, downtown, town, and city character.
Yep.
At many of the stops, you see dams, you see the rivers.
Yep.
so if you want to bring up the page me for the November 16th board of directors meetings.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. I have it right here. November 16th.
So I'm gonna start, maybe a different order than you might think, So you pull up
Oh,
like the Alliance of MBTA Unions Collective Bargaining
yeah.
Agreement authorization. Yeah. And and if you look at the Alliance tentative agreement, I think there's some pretty good things that have happened here.
Mm,
First they get an 18% increase in wages over 4 years, which is pretty good. The expansion of third shifts differential, to encourage experienced employees to work the critical shift,
Let me jump down to that. What page is that?
it's under the tentative agreement summary. There you go.
Ah, there we
Yeah,
are. Okay,
yeah.
got it.
And and personal leave flexibility,
Mhm.
and increased holiday pay, and so I think overall it's good. Clarification language on bereavement leave and expanded definition of immediate family. Yeah, overall I think it's pretty progressive. And the other bargaining agreements are kind of based on, well, they're all based on 589, and the others are similar, although there are fewer things in them, which kind of reflects the less demanding, I use that word in quotes, nature, of their jobs. I'm happy to see this. I don't feel as if the employees lost out on this.
Okay.
Now it may very well be, if I hear the folks at the union, you know, or the employees, they wish they could have gotten more. I'm very much a pro-union person, although I often feel that leadership of unions do unions a disservice, but that's
Mhm.
another thing, But I'm happy for this. I'd be interested if other people feel differently, meaning other people who are directly benefiting from this or affected by it, if they feel differently. So let's
Yeah.
see. The next thing to look
So,
at.
well, just
Uh,
let me just make an observation.
sure.
This is a smaller, it's a smaller head count than I expected. For some reason, I was thinking that this was going to be a head count. I don't know why I would have thought that. I thought this was like 800 to 1,000 even,
This
but
isn't 589 though. This
right,
is this is another
right.
union.
But still, between all the, okay, yeah, all right.
There.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't 589, but huh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, so but from the deck, I guess they have netted 500. From the manager's report, I guess we can go to report and general manager. They
Okay.
are positive by some. I remember it being 500 something, but I forget over what time period. Yeah, so we're rebuilding our workforce. It's on deck on slide number 14. You know,
Okay.
but it still doesn't give me a time range. It says um, up 1256 at 599 net increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
out,
is that yeah, I would like to know, is that 589? Is that include the oh geez, that we just saw it. What was the name of that bargaining unit?
yeah. For me, it's a matter. I think it's across all units. It's just a matter of over what time range.
Right.
And
Alliance.
so if I don't know if that's year to date, or the last 12 months, or is it a shorter period of time?
Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
probably something that was said, at the meeting, but wasn't included in the site.
Mhm.
And then if you scroll up one slide, you'll see
Yep.
that the new red and orange lines vehicles, they're performing pretty well. As I said, the contract call for 90,000 mean distance between
Mhm.
failures. And
Yep.
I guess at 90,000 miles, and so what they're seeing is 132 thousand miles, which is good.
Good.
Do you know what's defined as a failure?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I hope it's the entire car from end to end and not just done at a component level,
Yeah,
because
I
I
just don't
would
know.
want it to be the entire vehicle as one unit.
Yeah, I just don't know what a failure is. And
Right.
you think Bill Wolfgang would know?
Oh, of course you would. Oh,
Okay, all right.
absolutely. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
Bill Wolfgang is instrumental in writing
no,
the spec.
yeah, yeah. Right, all right.
Yep.
For
Oh,
some
and
reason, I
here's that
associate him with
recovery.
buses. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
talked
there's
over
a
you.
recovery. Yeah, there's a recovery slide. Right, right, exactly. And so yeah. It's doing well with some interesting fights. Although I guess the one, two, the January 2nd,
Oh, okay. Well, that would be a holiday.
You mean
And January.
the dips down?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
those are probably associated with holidays. And so, but if they are comparing, I guess we're just comparing that to the peak in 90, I mean, peak before the pandemic, and not so much year over year. So,
Yep.
Right.
yeah. So that's pretty good, man. And then you can see that the on-time performance is really good, for the last since
Yeah.
2020. Now, 2020 through 22, I would say, well, with less ridership, it might be easier to have OTP, you know. Although that's just, I don't know why I make that logic link. I don't think I can really defend it. I mean, I think I'm just saying, well, there are fewer people,
Yeah.
hopefully, but
Well,
that's not like the heavy rail where you have less crowded, or buses where because it's less crowded, the boarding and deboarding goes faster. So commuter rail is different. I mean, so I think that
Right.
logic link on mine is just flawed.
yeah. I'm actually surprised that the on-time performance was that high. I mean, it's 2 years ago. I know we've heard these numbers, but 2020, 21, I thought there were a lot of shortages for manpower, excuse me, crew
Yeah.
availability because of illnesses. And I thought that was actually affecting on-time performance. So
No.
I don't know enough to critique this, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, it is a matter of what they're measuring, but anyways, well, yeah, I don't have anything more to add at this point.
yeah,
So,
I will say I it just strikes me that if these dips are not holiday weeks, which they certainly seem to be. I mean that this dip seems to be Thanksgiving and this dip seems to be Christmas, New Year's, and that makes complete sense. The other ones, I mean, is that July? Is that are these dips in the middle of summer for vacation times?
yeah,
Maybe, probably. Is this dip in February? February vacation week? Could be. There's a Memorial Day weekend dip maybe in 2022.
yeah. Well, you
I
expect
mean,
tips.
are there also construction closures? I mean, you
Mhm.
know,
Well, you would expect dips around holidays, meaning people aren't around
sure,
much.
sure.
Uh,
I'd be interested to know if this was adjusted for um construction outages
yeah,
or or did they
But this is the whole system, right?
the whole community rail
yeah,
system, right, right.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
would like to see a line by line breakdown too.
local construction might not show up that much on this scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Um, so so back to the list of decks. So
Yep.
see number 4, the safety program
Yep. Here, let
update.
me before I go there, let
Yeah,
me just throw the link in the I try to put the links into Zoom and YouTube for anything that I show. All right, back to the, did I already do the link for the bargaining agreement? Yes, I did. That was the first one. Okay. Go ahead, Len, you were saying which next one?
so, well, actually, instead of going to the one that I said, why don't we go to the operations winter preparedness update?
All right. Thank
Ryan
you, Ryan,
Caron.
for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see, how they have incorporated lessons learned from other from previous winters,
Mhm.
uh, so I think it's what that works on. I like on slide number 11,
Okay.
on the bottom right-hand corner, one of the billboards says, "There's an easier way to save your space. Don't move your car." That's a good one. So, uh,
Wow.
that's pretty clever. So,
Yeah, really. I mean, if you're
Wow.
worried about, shoving out your car and then having someone take your space, especially after, they put a ban on the chairs and the shovel out
Yeah.
space, just leave your car until the snow melts. Well,
Holy mackerel, that is good.
that's really good. Yeah. Uh, 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 so so yeah, and they did discuss me. I mean, it's really a pretty detailed slide. I mean, about
Hmm.
the how the shoveling should take place around bus stops. I mean, and I mean what the T is responsible for, what the municipal partners are responsible
Yep.
for. I mean, how they communicate with municipal partners. I mean, clearly, I mean they are have thought about this a lot. And just keep building on previous experiences, but this is almost like a how-to guide on how to deal with winter, I mean, for the system and for the municipalities, and on slide number 5, what's interesting about this, I mean, is um, how they're preparing the vehicles. And in that second column, the special pantograph carbons, what
Hmm.
if you see this a double asterisk, and it says here, remove ice buildup on overhead catenary system, aggressive ice removal capabilities, but can cause catenary damage. Because apparently, like the ice buildup on the catenaries can, I think, cause
Yeah.
the catenaries to fracture or whatever, so you need to get the ice off. But
Yep.
apparently, aggressive removal of ice can damage the pantograph too. So it's kind of like you can't
Yeah.
win for losing on this one. But you pick your poison. I think it's better to have some degradation of the pantograph, which you know about, and then you maybe need to have to replace the pantograph sooner than otherwise.
The
Being like sooner than
Yep.
if you were living in a
yeah.
climate that
Yeah.
didn't have ice. But 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 at least
Yeah.
but at least that's controlled, as opposed to having your pantograph just break or whatever, or the catenary break. You have the
Yep.
catenary break, and then you're dead in the water, for unpredictably, and for whatever amount of time it takes to fix it. So
Hmm.
I just wanted to kind of point
Interesting.
this out. And this would be one of those cases too, where I think like if we were going to bring someone in, to talk about, preparation for wintertime, we should like really read this in detail first, and then
Yeah.
we would want to build off of this. We'd have to have like questions based on what's presented here for more clarification, and then,
Yep.
maybe to point out anything that's missing. But I like the fact that they're still making these kind of presentations, and there's a lot of learning here.
Yeah.
And certainly appreciation for what is being done in preparation.
Right.
All
Next
right.
time we talk to Jonathan Belcher, I hope we remember to ask about the third rail de-icing, because I remember before 2015 there was heaters only, and then I remember after 2015 there were some experiments with like salt brine dispensers in a couple of specially adapted older red line cars in particular that would
Uh,
actually squirt out some salt brine onto the third rail, but
yeah,
that was increasing some
yeah,
just degradation because it's salt on
right,
metal
right,
and
Right.
not
yeah,
thrilling. So I
yeah,
hope next time we talk to Jonathan, maybe in January, we can get what's the or if we talk to Bill Wolfgang. I'm sure
yeah,
Bill Wolfgang knows what's the current state of hell. I remember the old Hawker Siddeley orange lines and some of the older red line cars actually had sleet scrapers. They
yeah.
actually had little pneumatically operated feet
Mhm.
with a scraper that could be lowered down in front of the pickup arm.
Right. Well, they actually mentioned that with municipalities, sometimes the salt content or whatever the municipalities use to treat their roads can
Mhm.
create problems at the intersections. Where there are rail crossings.
Oh yeah.
That's something to have to take
Yep.
into account. So I want to increase my tempo a little bit because we have just a couple minutes. So if you go
Gotcha.
back to
Go ahead.
number 5, on the related
Roger.
files.
that has an update on safety management
okay.
inspection. We were
Yeah.
talking about this earlier, wanting to keep a check on how the T is progressing with all of the things that the FTA wants to do. So this is the deck for that, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I realized I used the wrong acronym. Yeah, because the SMI is the safety management inspection. It's the things that are the CAP. Yeah, the caps. Those
Right,
are the actual
right,
corrective actions.
right.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this is the real meat and potatoes here,
right,
where
right,
overall cap progress.
right. So is there like a priority for how they're going through these? I mean, which maybe was how I was interpreting Wig's question. I'm sure there is. I mean, where it was laid out, I mean, I couldn't tell you, Wig. I mean, maybe it was
Yeah.
probably back in the early part of this year or later part of last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the safety program update is interesting. You know, it kind of tells you how they handle the folks that are working on tracks, and
Yeah.
and the communication that they do being with the train operators, which is interesting. You know, I encourage you to check that out and have a little script that they read to people to make sure that they are aware, you know, that there are people, you know, on the tracks. So they kind of spell it out for you, you know, and then I'll encourage you to read the general manager report, especially you know, the slide number 4, where you can see what's coming in terms of, you know, um, what's the word for it? You know,
Oh yeah,
when they're going,
work,
when
track work.
yeah, track work. I mean,
Oh, that looks good. Yeah.
and when trains are going, when you're gonna have to do what's the word for it? I'm blanking out completely. Part because I'm getting so hungry. But when you know you have to take buses. I mean, so when
Yeah.
there's going to be service disruptions,
Yeah.
and they tell you the number of days anticipated. So yeah, that's a pretty. I imagine it will change. I mean, but at least
Yeah.
there's a plan, you know, that they'll be deviating from all the way through the year as opposed to coming up with a plan at some point, you know. And I have to say, slide number 6 is a little depressing, you know, but in terms of the power tap and feeder, you know, and when you look at the capital report, which I didn't ask you to bring up, it's like $5.1 billion that we need to upgrade or to get our power systems back into a state of good repair. So between power and I forget the other category, which is a big one that has a big deficit. But there are two critical regions that I would say are critical areas that I say we really need to focus on. I mean, I've been chiming on the power thing for the longest. It's like the power doesn't work, nothing's going to work, right? You know, we got to make power a top priority. It's not sexy, you know,
Yep.
but we got to make it a top priority, you know. So that's it. And so we're over, but hey.
Yep. And yeah, just for the record, I mean, it's been a long time since I've actually seen one of these big power distribution cables, like, you know, in a cross section, but they are basically just a big, I mean, that's like a 2-inch thick piece of multiple stranded copper. I mean, the amount of just the sheer amount of metal per foot for these, which is almost, I mean, it's, if I understand it right, it's virtually all copper. Just the amount of raw material
Yeah.
in the traction power distribution is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know it's dirty down there. I mean, you get like soot and stuff or whatever, just building up. But I like to think that we could like rebuild these things and just kind of like keep them
Yeah.
cleaner.
Oh,
You
well,
know?
I believe what we're seeing here is the result of fire suppression.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
I believe all this white powder that you're seeing is actually from the firefighting.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. That's all.
I believe there's some residual, like the bluish. I can't tell if the bluish is actually like somebody's flashlight. That might be an
Yeah,
LED flashlight.
yeah, right,
That's what I'm thinking,
yeah,
but all the white powder, I mean, because you can see how all the white
yeah,
powder is not uniform.
right,
I'm pretty confident that's
yeah.
a powder fire suppression spray.
Well, that just makes too much sense, you know. So thank you for pointing out that obvious
Okay.
element of the picture. You know, I was just thinking, oh my goodness, it's just so dirty down there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but also the other system is not only power but signals. I mean, so it's like between power and signals. I mean, we just really have to make that
a top priority. I mean, but it's not like I'm not telling the T, I mean, what it needs to know. I mean, but much like me trying to prioritize transportation, it's like you only have so much money. You got to figure out maybe where to spend it next based on competing priorities. You're gonna say, wait, I mean, Stefan?
Oh no, just a quick comment before I close this image about the broken rail.
Yeah,
Um, it's been a couple of years since I read a detailed engineering book about the causes of failures and how actual, rail equipment fails and track defects, etc. But my recollection from reading that book is that we were incredibly lucky that it was a straight across fracture, because if it was any kind of an angle, then you've got the risk of the angled parts getting under the wheel and like picking it
Yeah,
up, derailing it. I mean, this is like the perfect kind of a, if I remember correctly, having a straight
that makes
perpendicular
sense.
break. I mean, because the trains just keep going over it, and
Right.
somebody who's astute, like hopefully an astute operator would say, "Gunk," as the wheels and trucks go over it. Hey, wait a minute, that's a louder thunk, or that thunk shouldn't be there. But yeah, I mean, that's a really lucky way for it to break, as I understand it.
so then when we're in a train car and we hear a thunk, that's because we're going over a broken track, is what you're saying?
No, no, we're going over some kind of a join. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
I mean, case
all
in
right,
point, if you're on commuter rail and you're going up and down any of the areas where they have welded rail, which
yeah,
is pretty much the de facto standard, you're gonna hear no classic gugunk, gugunk, gugunk. You're just not gonna hear it because it's gonna
right,
be just whoosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
And when you get to a switch or a join of any kind, yeah, you'll hear a gugunk.
okay,
But that classic train of like, the old day, gugunk, gugunk. And in the case of red line, green line, all the subway lines, same thing. If it's welded rail, you're not going to hear any
Yeah.
impact sounds until you get to like a switch
right,
or somewhere where there was a join.
right.
And it's been a long time since I've talked to commuter rail engineers and conductors, but again, I had this vague memory that engineers, I believe, are expected to kind of have a sixth sense of, hey, I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
hear that thunk or
Right,
feel that thunk
right,
there
right,
Yeah.
because that's not normal. I
right,
think that's part of the expectation of
right,
for an engineer and you're running the same route maybe several times a day.
right, right,
Then if something suddenly is different, you're supposed to
right,
be, hey.
right,
I hope I'm not making all the stuff up. I believe I've learned all that
right. I hear you.
in the
Well, I
in the
gotta run. I have another meeting I have to head off to.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
all right,
Me too.
all right,
Thank you both. Have a
yeah.
great holiday
You too.
and
See
New
you next
Year.
year. Take care. Bye
Thank
bye.
you all for watching on YouTube.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Good night.